Have you ever wondered what happens after you toss a piece of plastic into the recycling container? Contrary to popular belief, very little of the plastic you put into the recycling bin actually gets recycled. Only 9% of the plastic produced since 1950 has been recycled. The rest ends up as landfills after being used as its first product. Recycling workers have corroborated this point. One employee in Southern Oregon reported that in her locale, only milk jugs and soda bottles get recycled, and that the rest ends up in landfills. Her point was corroborated by that of a longtime recycling manager. This serves as a segue to the question, what is wrong with plastic recycling, and what can be done about it? There are many disadvantages to plastic recycling, including the high costs, lack of recyclability among plastics that are commonly placed in the recycling bin, and the lack of demand for recycled materials. One of the most blatant pitfalls of plastic recycling is that not all plastic is recyclable. Only a small amount of the plastic that the public believes is recyclable and places in their recycling bin actually is able to be recycled. More depth will be added later in this podcast as this falls into a later subcategory. There is little demand for recycled plastics. Most products that are recycled would end up being downcycled or turned into less valuable products than the original, such as a park bench or part of a shoe sole. This is in part due to degradation, as plastic degrades when reconfigured and is only viable to recycle 1 to 2 times, making recycling plastic merely a temporary solution. The recycled plastic industry was worth only $46,000 million in 2021, which might initially seem to be an incredibly high amount, but the single-use plastic market was worth $22 billion that same year. This huge disparity in the valuing of these markets illustrates the lack of demand and use of recycled plastics. Recycling costs more than both disposing plastics in a landfill and producing plastics, creating a financial downside to recycling and incentivizing the use of single-use plastic. For example, within the city of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, recycling generally costs twice as much to the city as trash, although the price of recycling materials and recycled materials selling prices often widely fluctuate. This heightened cost is due to labor needed for collection due to longer routes, the cost for sorting, and the frequently low cost that recycled items are bought at. The article that focused on Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, broke down the cost of recycling as compared to trash and found that per ton, recycling collection costs $75 more than landfill waste collection. In addition, the same article estimated that recycling sorting costs about $150 per ton. I was unable to find a more recent article that establishes price with clear numbers, so there is a margin of error within those results. Single-use plastics' extreme expansion is due in part to lobbying. The plastic lobby has spent millions of dollars promoting the interests of plastic through marketing campaigns, lawsuits, and the use of lobbyists. They promote the idea of recycling over banning, among other issues. The plastics industry spends an excess of money marketing the false idea of plastic sustainability. One way that they do this is through forming scholarly-seeming organizations. The plastics industry funds institutions like the American Progressive Bag Alliance, which has claimed that plastic bags don't work. They have also funded research, including a study which claimed that plastic bag bans may result in a negative environmental effect. They also attempt to forward the message of plastic sustainability onto consumers through ad campaigns. In the 1990s, ads proclaiming the bottle may look empty, yet it's anything but trash, were particularly widespread. Despite these sunny-singing ads, the plastic industry knew that plastic was incredibly difficult to recycle. Their goal was simply selling the idea of plastic to the public. Ads like this have continued into the present day, as is evidenced by the recent Recycling is Real campaign. Preemption laws are one way that the plastics lobby weaves its way into the legislature in order to impede progress. These laws are written to stop bans on single-use plastic from being implemented within the state they are enacted in, and are present in 20 states including Florida, Texas, Ohio, Kansas, and our home state, Missouri, as of 2021. ALEC, a publicly funded group that brings state legislatures and corporate interests together and creates model bills that their state legislature members can enact back in their home states, has even created an outline bill of a preemption law. Another example of lobbying that has resulted in consumers viewing plastic more positively is the chasing arrows symbol with a number inside it that is found on pieces of plastic. Most consumers believe that this is a recycling symbol. possibly due to the purposeful similarities. Unfortunately, this symbol does not mean that the plastic can or will be recycled. Out of the 7 numbers, there are 2 where recycling is often cautioned against due to toxicity, those being 3 and 6. In addition, Category 7 is compounded of multiple types of plastic considered to be unrecyclable. Out of all of the numbers in the code, only 1 and 2 are frequently recycled. The triangle symbol allows consumers to feel less guilt about consuming a product due to their presumption of its recyclability, and thus enables companies to continue making profit for many eco-conscious consumers. Another example of companies' ability to avoid responsibility with their waste is a company called TerraCycle, which offers a free recycling program for customers at the cost of companies that create hard-to-recycle items. Theoretically, a customer of an item can then send a box of the item in at no cost to be recycled. TerraCycle claims to be able to recycle even items that are a number 7 under the triangle system. However, at least one box containing items from TerraCycle that was sent into the company headquarters has been found in a landfill in Malaysia. TerraCycle's programs are another way that companies can manufacture ways to avoid responsibility for their packaging and ensure that their unsustainability doesn't hamper profits. Even though industry executives knew by 1974 that the majority of plastics were not recycled, they did nothing about it because the idea of recycling makes consumers believe that plastics are having less of an effect on the environment than they actually do, thereby ensuring that many consumers that might be conscious of the environment do not alter their habits and cause corporations to face a loss in profits from a loss in sales or package redesign. The former head of the Society of the Plastics Industry summed it up eloquently when he stated, "If the public thinks that recycling is working, then they are not going to be as concerned about the environment." What can you do on an individual level? While not using plastics, the only way to guarantee not contributing to the greenwashing of plastic recycling is unattainable to most individuals. One solution that you can enact in your own life is to reduce the amount of plastic that goes into the recycling bin. No, I don't mean just throw everything away. That would be worse. Reducing the amount of plastic that needs to go into the recycling bin, and as such goes to the landfill, can be done through the familiar phrase reduce, reuse, recycle. Keep in mind that this acronym was initially ordered to place the best solutions at the beginning. In this acronym, reducing is first and foremost. It includes buying less items with single-use plastics. This can be done through purchasing a reusable alternative to an item, like a shopping bag or a water bottle. Choosing items with less single-use plastic in them at the grocery store, such as yogurt containers in a glass instead of in plastic, is another way that you can reduce. Reusing is done through reusing an item you already have for another purpose, such as reusing a plastic food container as a planter instead of purchasing starter planters separately. Buying any reusable plastic items secondhand can also fit into this category. Recycling is the last item on the list and means that an item will be reconfigured for a new purpose. When recycling, keep in mind that the most commonly recycled plastics are milk jugs and soda bottles. Recycling plastic is the least reliable way to reduce plastic in landfills and should be used more sparingly than the other two. Policies like the Take Back policy and plastic bag laws can help reduce the use of single-use plastics over a wide area, as opposed to the small impact of individual action. One solution that governments can implement to make plastic recycling more effective is the Take Back policy, wherein reusable items like glass and plastic soda bottles are cleaned and reused through a return system where the customer is paid for their return. A system like this was used historically in the United States, but fell out of favor once financial incentives were removed. Currently, a system like this exists in Germany, and it boasts over a 98% return rate. Under this system, bottles are recycled about 50 times if they are glass and 25 times if they are plastic. An iteration of Germany's model could help reduce the use of single-use plastics within the United States. It can also be used for recyclable items, wherein they are recycled after a return to increase recycling rates, although the first system is better environmentally. Plastic bag bans are another solution to help governments reduce the presence of single-use plastic, and thus the presence of plastic in landfills. With the plastic bag ban, a municipality, or perhaps an entire state, effectively removes the ability to use plastic bags. Plastic bag taxes are a related option. Though perhaps less extreme seeming, they still provide a financial incentive to switch to multi-use cloth bags and can provide governments data on how much the use of plastic bags has waned. While these are a great solution, preemption laws still make them hard to implement widely. This next section is just an evaluation of a more radical approach, degrowth, instead of the smaller solutions that I have evaluated thus far. Some scholars argue that recycling and sustainability efforts are futile in a system where corporations have a major say in every step of the production and disposal. This concept was brought up in the article Future-Proofing Capitalism, the Paradox of a Circular Economy for Plastics, published in the journal Global Environmental Politics, wherein Alex Moss states that the capitalist iteration of the circular economy model ignores the needs for degrowth, or the production of less products. Further along in this article, Ma criticizes the influence that companies have on our production systems due to their sole interest in profit. Ma's statements emphasize that recycling is seen as a way to control public image by plastic corporations, and she recommends that a more radical circular economy be introduced to the public sphere and that we use collaboration and bigger scale thinking in order to reach her view of a degrown economy.